It was a very sudden breakup. They actually came in person, returned my stuff and said, "Hey, I'm sorry about this, but I'm getting married." And
Wow. Wow.
I'm like, wait a second, I didn't propose to you. Oh. And then it just kind of hit.
Wow.
And so it was very sudden. I started going to the gym regularly. I was very stubborn at that time. I'm like, I'll show her, like very reactionary, bitter per se. At the same time, it was a spark that really started me on this journey to get this handled.
Hello, I'm Andy Morgan, and welcome to another episode of the Rip Body Podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Richard Golden, a longtime Rip Body reader who has undergone a dramatic transformation over the last decade. Rich grew up with an identical twin brother who was lean, while he always struggled with weight gain, body image issues, and cycles of yo-yo dieting. At his heaviest, he weighed over 230 pounds. That's at a height of 5'8". Now, at 44 years old, he is sitting at a lean and healthy 155. And more importantly, he feels in control for the first time in his life. So we talk about how a painful breakup triggered a turning point, what he felt about sustainability after years of failure, and why he's now chasing something new, not just maintenance, but mastery. But can he push through the final plateau now that his health is not on the line? Or will comfort hold him back? Let's get into it. You said it was especially rough in high school because you had an identical twin brother, but he was skinny. That's implying something about yourself there. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that was like?
Yeah, sure. So growing up, I have my identical twin, Alex. He is my best friend. We're still best friends. He lives like a 3-minute walk from my house right now. So that's very cool. At the same time, growing up, I remember I was chubbier. I was fatter than he was. He was relatively thin. And I remember in high school was maybe the first time I really noticed it or it was pointed out to me. I remember some kids saying, "Oh yeah, they're twins and he's the fat twin," pointing towards me. And I didn't have nurture or nature as an excuse. I had an identical twin brother, grew up in the same environment, and for some reason, I ate more than he did, and I was bigger than he was. And I think in high school, maybe I was at max like 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And then like I try like maybe not eating and maybe not making the wisest decisions to go in a caloric deficit looking back on it. And I would lose weight, then gain weight again, and then move on to college, same thing. Okay, let me try jogging an hour each day. And then I got skinny and then that's not sustainable. And then I ballooned up again. Then I came to Japan and I lost some weight and then ballooned up again. My weight was like a roller coaster, just going up and down and up and down. I never really had control over it, and I didn't understand why. And so, yeah, that's kind of like, yeah, where I was.
May I ask, how old are you now?
I'm 44 now. I'm going to be 45 this year.
Okay, and just for context, you are 5'8" or thereabouts. I've got 175 centimeters written here. Yeah, okay. So when you say ballooned up, like 200 pounds to many people, they might be like, oh, that isn't ballooning up. And of course, it's all relative. And for you, certainly compared with your twin, and then at your body size generally, or your height, like 200 pounds, that was big for you.
Yes.
And currently you're sitting at, what is it, about 155?
Yeah, 69 kilograms, about like 155. Do I have it written down here? Not. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems about right. Yeah. Okay. And we're going to come back to where your current position now, but I was just comparing photographs from when we first communicated, which I believe it was 2000, it was either 2014, perhaps, was it? You mentioned that you went through a breakup, a bad breakup, and then you reached out for coaching, and you were already living in Japan at that point.
Yeah.
So I'm always interested in sparks that get people interested in making a change. You had the breakup. what was your motivation there? What were your feelings around yourself leading up to that point?
Sure. And so at that point, I was around my heaviest in my adult life. I was 105 kilograms, which was like 230,
30.
220 pounds. So I was pretty big. And I remember a story. This was a previous, like my girlfriend at the time before the breakup that spurred this all. I lived in the capital of Ishikawa Prefecture. They got this brand new shiny mall department store right by the station, very fashionable. And I went there with my girlfriend at the time looking for a new winter coat since the winters are very cold there. And I just remember going to the store and the person working there just shook their head and, sorry, we don't have anything your size.
Mm.
And at the time, I didn't really take that like personally. It's just, oh, okay. It wasn't until like I broke up with that girlfriend, and then a year later, I started dating someone else for it was about like 2 months, and then it was a very sudden breakup. Like from them, like they dumped me. I
Yeah.
say sudden. At the time, I thought it was a bad breakup, but relatively speaking, if it was going to happen, their execution was all I could ask for. They returned a CD I lent them. They actually came, like in person, returned my stuff and said, "Hey, I'm sorry about this, but I'm getting married." And
Wow. Wow.
I'm like, wait a second, I didn't propose to you. Oh, and then it just kind of hit.
Wow. Did you have any idea?
I had no idea because the week before, like we were making plans. It was before Valentine's Day. She's like, "Hey, let's go to this hot springs," and then she dumped me. And she
Mm.
was gonna set up my friend with her friend, and then she broke up with me. Like it didn't make any logical sense. These things don't sometimes, at least with the information that we have available to us. But no, I didn't see it coming.
And so then you reached out at that point for coaching.
It was actually a little bit later. So
Mm.
at that point, I was at my heaviest, 105 kilograms. And I took the steps that I could do at that time. And I actually got myself down to 81 kilograms.
Right. Right.
The steps I took, I started going to the gym regularly. I was very stubborn at that time. I'm like, I'll show her, like very reactionary, bitter per se. At the same time, it was a spark that really started me on this journey to get this handled. And I went to the gym, work out 3 days a week, watch my diet a bit, well, more than a bit. And I went from above 200 to below 200. So that was like, I came pretty far before I actually reached out to you.
Yeah, you went from, if we put those kilos into pounds, you went from about 225 to 81. That's 162 plus 16. I should never have done public math, but let's call that 180, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've just dropped 45 pounds, maybe 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Over what time period was that?
I don't remember offhand. It was a couple of months, more than a couple. It was like maybe half a year or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. It must be more than a couple of months. Now, were
Yeah.
you feeling insecure? Is that what was driving this? Or was it like the vengeance, like I'll show her, like?
It was more, I'll show her. I
Okay, yeah.
didn't really feel insecure. I didn't feel like she broke up with me because I was fat or overweight. It
Mm,
was just kind of more like, looking back on it, I think it was more, this is something I can control. I
mm.
can control working out. I can control, or at least I wanted to control how I looked. I can't control how other people react to me, but it was kind of, in retrospect, maybe a way I could try to take control back to like a very challenging point in my life.
Now, I recall we took things from 180 pounds, so this 81 kilo mark, down to, we lost something like 9 kilos over the 3 months that we were together. This is back in a time when I was only doing 12-week engagements. Silly me. If I could go back, I would absolutely redo that because I don't think it did a service to clients who wanted ongoing help. But you did a great job. You lost a further 20 pounds and the body composition was night and day. Not only were you leaner, but you gained more muscle then as well. And then I've seen pictures of you a couple of times over the years, and you have continued to get leaner and noticeably more muscled and defined. So you have gone from a guy who was pushing 230. Again, just to recap, you're 5'8", okay? So you're pushing 230 to now being a lean. Well, I haven't actually seen a picture of you recently, but I know your current weight is 155, and I've seen your fighting weight at like around that level before, and you were looking lean and really good. At least
Yeah.
a 4-pack, we can say, right? 6-pack, I would have to have another relook, but you probably had that, right? So
Yeah.
you've said here that you are struggling now to make progress with your diet and with your training. Can you tell us what it is that you feel that you've been struggling with and why? Maybe actually it's best to back up and just quickly ask, like, what are your goals right now? What is it you'd like to achieve?
What I would like to achieve is actually like something that I've already achieved, which is now I feel like I have control over my weight and I
Yeah.
understand like what's happening. And I've also kind of disassociated like how I look physically with my value or my personally perceived value as a person. And
Mm.
so I'm not like bitter about the breakup anymore. I'm not like, I'll show them, but it's more kind of like, what can I do now? Because the time's going to pass whether I make adjustments to how I'm exercising and how I'm dieting and whether I keep moving forward, or is how I am now good enough? And that's up to me to judge. It's no one else's decision. With that being said, I'm happy with how I look. I still don't have the 6-pack right now. I mean, with the right lighting and I turn the right way and flex, then I could like do a nice selfie in the bathroom.
Mm.
But it's not like then that normal lighting, maybe later in the days are just like normal.
Sure.
Like I look like if I were to say if it was summer right now, it's May, so it's not summer season quite yet. If it was summer, I'd go to the beach, take off my shirt, be more than happy with how I look.
Mm.
At the same time, I've never actually dieted down to that super shredded, like abs, even with in relatively normal situations without the best lighting and flexing and tensing.
Mm.
And so it's on one hand, I would also like to build muscle as well. And I feel like maybe other people feel the same way where it's like, well, should I lean or should I bulk or what should I do here? And if I were to share my thought process with you, how I see things right now is I could, if I were to say go on to a gaining phase, then
Yeah.
maybe aim to gain like 10 pounds of muscle along with 10 pounds of fat. That would be plus 10 kilograms or about plus 20 pounds, which would put me up to like around like 79, 80 kilograms. And that's at least I look okay like that, but I would be bigger in the face and it would be kind of like the borderline of how comfortable I would feel like, temporarily. Sure, no problem. At the same time, if I were to say maybe cut down to have more visible abs, get rid of what's left of like there's not much belly fat left, but there's still some just enough to hide the abs. And since I've never dieted down to really see the abs, I don't know how far down that would look like. I had once been maybe like a weekly average of 67 kilograms or so, just temporarily, and it was almost there. But then, like, yeah, I just kind of, stay right now around like the 69. And what I have in my mind, and I would like to ask your opinion on this, is maybe try dieting down or losing a bit more, maybe down to 65 max. Like that, even that seems a bit thin for me, but again, I don't know. And then if I'm looking at like a window of say 65 and then bulk up to 75, for me at least right now, that seems more appealing than to say go from 70 to 80. kilograms.
Yes, I think there's a few things that you need to bear in mind here. There's, okay, ultimately you've got to choose the pain of feeling a little bit too lean or feeling a little bit too fat. These boundaries are where we kind of walk between the end of our cut and the end of our bulk. And the ability to be okay with pushing these points further apart is helpful because it allows us to extend how long we can be in a gaining phase, which means that each gaining phase we have potential to gain more muscle, which means that once we have cut down again, when we look at ourselves in the mirror, we're able to see the physical difference in the effort that we've just put in over the last, say, 12 to 14 months. And we're like, hell yeah, I'm down for doing that again, right? Mm-hmm. You don't end that process feeling disappointed, which I think many people do when they only bulk for, say, 4 or 5 months or something like that. And often what happens is people, they don't get lean enough. They start the bulk when they are, they don't have enough runway, and they end up ending the bulk because they had in mind, theoretically they know they want to gain. They want to be gaining for 10 months because then that's more likely to lead to far more muscle, but they just can't handle being the level of fat gain that they've had after just 5 months. So that's one consideration for you. And it sounds like you've already decided that getting leaner is the way for you to go. The other thing I would say to you is you're wearing quite a nice looking suit there. I imagine you've got a couple more in your wardrobe. Mm-hmm. If you were to gain 20 pounds, 25 pounds from here, that I say nice looking, it looks very nicely fitted. You may not be able to fit into that anymore.
Yeah.
And so you may, though, be able to fit into that once you have gained another 10 pounds of muscle when you are leaner, right? It may be it's now a little bit tight on the shoulders and back, but really you can worry about that when you get there.
Yeah.
But my point is your work clothes are all going to fit if you are to take off the next what are we talking, like 7 to 8 pounds of fat first before then going into a bulk. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the way forward for you. I get the impression that you know this and you have known this, but you haven't acted on it. What is it that's held you back?
Mm-hmm. The last time I tried to really slim down past this, at the time, I think I had approached it with a too aggressive caloric deficit. And I also wasn't aware of maybe some of the negative consequences or side effects of dieting down. For example, I felt cold all the time. Even if it was objectively like warm out, I felt cold. And when I say I was losing faster than I should have, I was already lean. And then going at like 1% of body fat loss or 1% body weight loss per week, which is a bit too fast. My understanding is that for lean people, it should be about 0.5% of the body weight, or maybe even slower than that. And looking back at the time, my diet, I wasn't eating enough fats. Looking at the recommendation, like the minimum level would be 0.5 gram of fat per kilogram, I believe, which would put for me right now about 35, like at the like absolute minimum for fats. Yeah. And so what I did last time that I would do differently this time would be to approach it with a slower loss of weight. I'm okay with, I've been in maintenance now for, I think it's like 8 months at the same weight. So I'm not in a rush to get super lean. Yep. I'm not in a rush to say, oh, summer's coming, so I need that 6-pack by summer. I'll get there when I get there. So I'm more than open to, or actually I want to go with a slower weight or slower rate of of fat loss. And I know there's some different points of view say, well, if it's a slower rate of loss, then I'm in a caloric deficit for a longer calendar period of time. At the same time, that might be more sustainable than if it's a more aggressive approach. I'm also more aware of, say, I might feel colder, or like to be kind of be aware of those things, and with that knowledge, be more prepared to lean down a bit more.
Yeah, you're feeling a little, feeling colder. Some people can notice that it's at the extremities, right? Your hands, your feet, more than most areas of your body. This can happen, especially as we get very lean, but also with the severity of a calorie deficit. So if you're keeping the rate of weight loss to say maybe 3/4 of a pound per week, you're going to be, I mean, we're recording now coming up the end of May. We're going into the summer. Summers in Tokyo are pretty hot. I don't think you will have that issue on both ends of that, which is good. And I think it would be nice for you to have a target, assuming that you can do so and still do all of the things that you want to do in the summer by the start of September, so that we do have something that is time bound for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a 12-week period, right? There's a generous 12-week period. It's a little more than that, but this is going to give you a target to shoot for.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you have a little more fat in your diet, that may help. I think a big thing of this is keeping up with the habit of, you were mentioning before that at your workplace, they have a good selection of food, but it's not quite enough in terms of protein that you can get at the canteen and maybe vegetables that you can get in the canteen. So I know that you've said that you typically take your own packed lunch to work.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I think the issue that you are likely to face moving forward is not a lack of knowledge of what you need to do. It's a reason to be doing what you're doing, because it's going to be increasingly difficult the leaner you get. And let's not forget, you are someone who is now, you've come from a position where you were the overweight identical twin. You struggled with your weight your entire life, gained, lost again. You're now in a place where you finally have absolute control. That must feel great, right?
Yes, it does. Yes, definitely.
Everything you've done up until now has changed your life, no doubt. So how are we going to keep you accountable to this goal that you're striving for? How are you going to make it more than a nice to have?
Mm-hmm. As I'm here on this podcast, this is going out to the public, so that's more than enough accountability for me.
Okay. All right, great. How about we have you back at the start of September then?
It sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would you feel about, there's nothing like public accountability, but it is just a face right now.
Mm-hmm.
Picture before and after.
Yeah, sure thing.
All right, great. So I want you to be reaching out. I want you to be sending me an email if you're stuck. And I want you to know that it's going out. Your before and your after. Mm-hmm. Your after is going to come out regardless. Yes. Right, I'll hunt you down. Right, I'll have a couple of big boys rip your shirt off you, and we'll paparazzi you shirtless if you refuse to cooperate, Rich.
I'll cooperate. Yeah, definitely. I don't think that's. I'm motivated. And thank you for providing the extra accountability and the opportunity to say, "Hey, September, let's get this done."
I think the one danger in this is that it's just me, plus the listeners who you have no connection with, no direct connection with. So it can be very helpful if there is someone in your life or some people in your life who know what you're doing. So if you can, I would recommend telling people about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what your deadline is, so that they are then very likely to ask you how things are going. It's got to be those types of people. And ideally, they're going to be the type of people that you are not only friendly with, but you also have respect for, and you don't want to disappoint them.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you won't lie to them,
Yeah.
right? By saying, yeah, no, it's going well, right? You know, that can be a very powerful thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone in your life that you can think of that's like that? It could be, family, work, etc.
Yeah, certainly. I mentioned my identical twin brother, Alex. He'll be the first one to tell. And I am also planning to share this podcast when it comes out on my social media as well, on like Facebook and friends as well. So even, of course, having my identical twin brother, who's my best friend, having him hold me accountable, or having me accountable to sharing with him how things are going, certainly a huge motivation. And at the same time, I'm sure colleagues from work will see this, friends. It's as much as I can, I will reach out to people and let them know that, hey, this is something. To quote your book, the last shred, the final shred is like just almost there.
Exactly. And then you're going to go into a gaining phase, and you're going to be doing that over the course of, say, 10-ish months. One of the things that you're going to go through just before that is people are going to see you're already, you have a lean face, right? That's something that you didn't have in the past. Now you've got a very lean face, but people are going to see that's getting more and more lean.
Mm-hmm.
And without you telling them what it is that you're doing, they may worry, right? Because typically people don't push kind of extremes for leanness, and it can show in the face, right? So letting them know what you're doing can also help them understand, and also for them not to make some side comment that unknowingly like jibes you, and kind of knocks your confidence in what you're doing, right? Just, acknowledging that is going to happen before. And then also on the back end of this, when you do move into this bulking phase, again, letting people know what you're doing so that, you don't have comments of people who are around you who are understandably concerned, but they're like, hey, is everything all right? You've gained a bit of weight here. Obviously, the first like 3-4 months, this is going to be, they're going to be like, oh yeah, nice. You're getting some good size on you here, Rich, right? The difficulty comes kind of after that, as you creep up more and more. And yeah, sure, it's going to be size all over the body, but there is going to be, a little on the stomach that you're going to be gaining. And, you want people to be, supportive of that as well. And just one way of doing that is by letting them know that you got things in control and that this is all purposeful, right? It's not reverting to a past Rich.
Yeah.
And I think that's another point. If you do feel at any point that you are struggling to remain in control, that you feel that this may lead to a yo-yo, I actually don't worry about that, but just stop. Do you have any concerns that this may lead into old patterns of behavior?
I don't think so. And the reason I say that is I've been in maintenance now for 8 months. I do track what I eat, but not from like a really meticulous, for the next 4 months, yeah, I'm going to really get back on that. But I say I haven't been trying to stay in maintenance. I have been trying. I've been keeping up with what's gotten me here. And so I'm not worried that, say, if I were to diet down, or even on the flip side of that, start to eat more, I'm not worried that I would just go out of control. Like, all right, now it's time for the ice cream and the Oreos and stuff like that. I'm not worried about that.
Great. Perfect. In which case, green light from me, my man. I'm excited
Awesome.
to see what you can do.
Yeah, thank you.
Rich, thank you for your time. I look forward to sharing with the audience how you get on in a few months.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. And I'm looking forward to being back. And I will, after this, take the before pictures and then certainly look forward to the after pictures in 4 months.
Fantastic.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Andy.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this, please don't forget to subscribe. What did you think of this one? Could you relate to anything that Rich said here? Drop a comment and let me know your thoughts. Now, there are a few ways that we can help at Rip Body. We have the free articles on the website. I answer the comments daily, and I have been doing so for 14 years. We have some books, of course. You'll see the muscle and strength pyramids over my shoulder here. And we also have the diet adjustment manual. This is a book that's kind of emptied all of my coaching knowledge in there of what to do and how to assess when to change and how to change your diet when you reach a plateau. And of course, what we do best is coaching. We have a team of talented coaches who can guide you through all of this. So if you'd like some extra support, just go to ripbody.com/coaching, and I would love to hear from you. All right. Thank you.